Hi friends, it's Miss Spinach, back to read some more Harry Potter. So I'm going to get right to it because last night I stopped the book right where they were walking up to a large building and Harry was with Hagrid and they were going to Gringotts, it looked like, to get some money. So let's find out about this. I'm going to start a little bit back, just kind of lead us back to where we were. They reached the snowy white building that towered over the other little shops. Standing beside its burnished bronze doors, wearing a uniform of scarlet and gold, was... "Yeah, that's a goblin," said Hagrid quietly as they walked up the white stone steps towards him. The goblin was about a head shorter than Harry. He was swarthy, clever-faced, and pointed beard, and, Harry noticed, very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with the words engraved on them. Ready? "Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasures there." Ooh, spooky. "Like I said, you'd be mad to try and rob it," said Hagrid. A pair of goblins bowed to them through the silver doors, and they were in a vast marble hall. About 100 more goblins were sitting in high stools behind a long counter, scribbling on long ledgers, weighing coins and brass scales, examining precious stones through eyeglasses. There were too many doors to count leading up the hall, and yet more goblins were showing people in and out of those. Hagrid and Harry made for the counter. "Morning," Hagrid said to a free goblin. "We're here to take some money out of you. Mr. Harry Potter's safe." "And you have his keys, sir?" "Got it somewhere," said Hagrid, as he started emptying his pockets onto the counter, scattering a handful of mouldy dog biscuits over the goblin's book of numbers. The goblin wrinkled his nose. Harry watched the goblin on the right weighing a pile of rubies as big as glowing coals. "Got it," said Hagrid at last, holding up a tiny golden key. The goblin looked at it closely. "Seems to be in order. And I've got a letter here from Professor Dumbledore," said Hagrid importantly, throwing out his chest. "It's about you-know-who in Vault 713. The goblin read the letter carefully. "Very well," he said, handing it back to Hagrid. "I will have someone take you down to both vaults. Griphook?" Griphook was another goblin. Once Hagrid had crammed all the dog biscuits back inside his pocket, he and Harry followed Griphook toward one of the doors leading off the hall. "What's the you-know-what in Vault 713? Harry asked. "Can't tell you that," said Hagrid mysteriously. "Very secret. Hogwarts business. Dumbledore's trusted me. More than my job's worth to tell you that." Griphook held the door open for them. Harry was expecting more marble, was surprised. There was a narrow stone passageway lit with flickering torches. It sloped steadily downward, and there were little railway of tracks on the floor. Griphook whistled, and a small cart came hurtling up the tracks toward them. They climbed in. Hagrid, with some difficulty, and they were off. At first they just hurtled through a maze of twisting passages. Harry tried to remember left, right, left, middle, right, left, but it was impossible. The rattling cart seemed to know its own way, because Griphook wasn't steering. Harry's eyes stung as the cold air rushed past them, but he kept them wide open. Once he thought he saw a burst of fire at the end of the passage, and twisted around to see if it was a dragon, but too late. They plunged even deeper, passing an underground lake where huge stalactites and stalagmites grew from the ceiling to the floor. "I never know," Harry called to Hagrid over the noise of the cart. "What's the difference between stalagmite and stalactite?" "Stalagmite's got an M in it," said Hagrid, "and don't ask me questions just now. I think I'm going to be sick." He did look very green, and when the cart stopped at the last beside a small door in the passage hall, Hagrid got out and had to lean against the wall to stop his knees from trembling. Grippic unlocked the door. A lot of green smoke came billowing out, and as it cleared, Harry gasped. Inside were mounds of gold coins, columns of silver, heaps of little brown nuts. All yours, smiled Hagrid. All Harry's? It was incredible. The Dursleys couldn't have known about this, or they'd have had it. They'd have had it from him faster than blinking. How often had they complained how much Harry cost to keep? All the time there had been a small fortune belonging to him, buried deep under London. Hagrid helped Harry pile some into a bag. The gold ones are galleons, he explained. 17 silver sickles to a galleon, and 29 nuts to a sickle. It's easy enough, right? That should be enough for a couple of items. We'll keep the rest safe for you. He turned to Grippic. Vault 713 now, please. And can we go more slowly? Only one speed, said Grippic. They were going even deeper now and gaining speed. The air became cooler and cooler as they hurled towards tight corners. They went rattling over the underground ravine, and Harry leaned over the side to try and see what was down at the dark bottom. But Hagrid groaned and pulled him back by the scruff of his neck. Vault 713 had no keyhole. Stand back, said Grippic importantly. He stroked the door gently with one of his long fingers, and it simply melted away. If anyone but Gringotts Goblin tried that, they'd be sucked through the door and trapped in there, said Grippic. How often do you check to see if anyone's inside? Harry asked. About once every 10 years, said Grippic, with a rather nasty grin. Something really extraordinary had to be inside this top security vault, Harry was sure, and he leaned forward eagerly, expecting to see fabulous jewels at the very least. But at first he thought it was empty. Then he noticed a grubby little package wrapped up in a brown paper lying on the floor. Hagrid picked it up, tucked it deep inside his coat. Harry longed to know what it was, but he knew better than to ask. Come on, back to the infernal cart, and don't talk to me on the way back. It's best I keep my mouth shut, said Hagrid. One wild cart ride later, they stood blinking in the sunlight outside Gringotts. Harry didn't know where to run fast first, now that he had a bag full of money. He didn't have to know how many galleons there were to a pound to know that he was holding more money than he'd ever had in his whole life, more money than even Dudley had ever had. Might as well get your uniform, said Hagrid, nodding towards Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions. Listen, Harry, would you mind if I slipped off for a pick-me-up at the Leaky Cauldron? I hate them Gringotts carts. He used to look a bit sick, so Harry entered Madame Malkin's shop alone, feeling nervous. Madame Malkin was a squat, smiling witch dressed in all mauve. Hogwarts, dear, she said when Harry started to speak. Got a lot here. Another young man being fitted up just now, in fact. In the back of the shop, a beau with a pale, pointed face was standing at the footstool while a second witch pinned him with his long black robes. Madame Malkin stood Harry in the stool next to him, slipped a long rod over his head, and began to pin it with the right length. Hello, said the boy. Hogwarts too? Yes, said Harry. My father's next door buying my books, and mother's up the street looking at wands, said the boy. It was a bold, drawling voice. Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one, and I'll smuggle it in somehow. Harry was strongly reminded of Dudley. Have you got your own broom? The boy went on. No, said Harry. Play Quidditch at all? No, Harry said again, wondering what on earth Quidditch could be. I do. Father says it's a crime that I'm not picked to play for my house, and I must say I agree. Know what house she'll be in yet? No, Harry said, feeling more stupid by the minute. Well, no one really knows until they get there, do they? But I know I'll be in Slytherin. All our family has been. Imagine being in Hufflepuff. I think I'd leave, wouldn't you? Harry said, wishing he could say more than something a bit more interesting. I say, look at that man, said the boy suddenly, nodding toward the front window. Hagrid was standing there, grinning at Harry and pointing at 2 large ice creams to show he couldn't come in. That's Hagrid, said Harry, pleased to know something the boy didn't. He works at Hogwarts. Oh, said the boy, I've heard of him. He's a sort of servant, isn't he? He's the gamekeeper, said Harry. He was liking the boy less and less every second. Yes, exactly. I've heard he's sort of savage, lives in a hut on the school grounds, and every now and then he gets drunk, tries to do magic, and ends up setting fire to his own bed. I think he's brilliant, said Harry coldly. Do you? Said the boy with a slight sneer. Why is he with you? Where are your parents? They're dead, said Harry shortly. He didn't feel much like going into the matter with the boy. Oh, sorry, said the other, not sounding sorry at all. But they were all kind, weren't they? They were a witch and a wizard, if that's what you mean. I really don't think they should let in any other sort, do you? They're just not the same. They've never been brought up in our ways. Some of them have never even heard of Hogwarts until they got the letter. Imagine. I think they should keep it in the old wizarding families. What's your surname, anyway? But before Harry could answer, Madame Malkin said, That's your done, my dear. And Harry, not sorry for the excuse to stop talking to the boy, hopped down from the footstool. Well, I'll see you at Hogwarts, I suppose, said the drolling boy. Harry was rather quiet as he ate the ice cream with Hagrid had bought him, chocolate with raspberry with chopped nuts. What's up? Said Hagrid. Nothing, Harry lied. They'd stopped to buy parchment and quills. Harry cheered up a bit when he found a bottle of ink that changed colour as you wrote. When they had to leave the shop, he said, Hagrid, what's Quidditch? Blimey, Harry, I keep forgetting how little you know. Not knowing about Quidditch. Don't make me feel worse, said Harry. He told Hagrid about the pale boy and Madame Malkin's. And he said people from Muggle families shouldn't even be allowed in. Yeah, you're not from a Muggle family. If he'd known who you were, he'd grown up knowing your name if his parents are wizarding folks. You see what everyone in the Leaky Cauldron was like when they saw you. Anyway, what does he know about it? Some of the best I ever saw were the only ones with magic in them in a long line of muggles. Look at your mom. Look at what she done for her sister. Look what she had for her sister. Okay, so what is Quidditch? It's our sport, wizard sport. It's like soccer in the Muggle world. Everyone follows Quidditch, play up in the air on broomsticks, and there's 4 balls. Sort of hard to explain the rules. And what are Slytherin and Hufflepuff? Schoolhouses. There's 4. Everyone says Hufflepuff are a lot of old duffers, but I bet I'm a Hufflepuff, said Harry gloomily. Better Hufflepuff than Slytherin, said Hagrid darkly. There's not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. You know who was one. You know who was at Hogwarts? Years and years ago, said Hagrid. They bought Harry's school books in a shop called Flourish and Bolts, where the shelves were stacked to the ceiling with books as large as paving stones, bound in leather, books the size of postage stamps in covers of silk, books full of peculiar symbols, and a few books with nothing in them at all. Even Dudley, who'd never read anything, would have been wild to get his hands on some of these. Hagrid had almost had to drag Harry away from the cures and counter curses. Bewitch your friends and befuddle your enemies with the latest revenges, hair loss, jelly legs, tongue-tying, and much, much more, by Professor Vindictus Viriaden. I was trying to find out how to curse Dudley. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but you're not to use your magic in the Muggle world except in very special circumstances, said Hagrid. And anyway, you couldn't work any of them curses yet. You'll need a lot more study before you have that level. Hagrid wouldn't let Harry buy a solid gold cauldron either. It says pewter on your list. But they got a nice set of scales for weighing potions ingredients and collapsible brass telescope. When they visited the apothecary, there was a fascinating enough to make up for its horrible smell, a mixture of bad eggs and rotted cabbages. Barrels of slimy stuff stood on the floor. Jars of herbs, dried roots, and bright powders lined the walls. Bundles of feathers, strings of fangs, and snarled claws hung from the ceiling, while Hagrid asked the man behind the counter for a supply of some basic potion ingredients for Harry. Harry himself examined silver unicorn horns at 21 galleons each, and minuscule glittery black beetle eyes, 5 nuts a scoop. Outside the apothecary, Hagrid checked Harry's list again. Just your wand left. Oh, yeah, And I still haven't got you a birthday present. Harry felt himself go red. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Tell you what, I'll get your animal. Not a toad. Toads went out of fashion years ago. You'd be laughed at. And I don't like cats. They make me sneeze. I'll get you an owl. All the kids want owls. They're dead useful. Carry your mail and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Ilove's Owl Emporium, which had been dark and full of rustling and flickering, jewel-bright eyes. Harry now carried a large cage that held a beautiful snowy owl, fast asleep with her head under her wing. He couldn't stop stammering his thanks, sounding like Professor Quirrell. Don't mention it, said Hagrid gruffly. Don't expect you've had a lot of presents from them Dursleys. Just Ollivanders left now. Only place for wands. Ollivanders, and yeah, you got to have the best wand. A magic wand. This was what Harry was really looking forward to. The last shop was narrow and shabby. Peeling gold letters over the door read, Ollivanders, maker of fine wands since 382 B.C. A single wand lay on a faded purple cushion in a dusty window. A tinkling bell rang somewhere in the depths of the shop as they stepped inside. It was a tiny place, empty except for a single spindly chair that Hagrid sat on to wait. Harry felt strangely as though he'd entered a very strict library. He swallowed a lot of new questions that had just occurred to him and looked instead at thousands of narrow boxes piled neatly right up to the ceiling. For some reason, the back of his neck prickled. The very dust and the silence in here tingle was some sort of magic. Good afternoon, said a soft voice. Harry jumped. Hagrid must have jumped too, because it was a loud crashing noise, and he got quickly off the spindly chair. An old man standing before them, his wide pale eyes shining like moons through the gloom of the shop. Hello, Harry said awkwardly. Ah, yes, said the man. Yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon. Harry Potter. It wasn't a question. You have your mother's eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in herself buying her first wand. 10 1/4 inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work. Mr. Ollivander moved closer to Harry. Harry wished he could blink. Those silvery eyes were a bit creepy. Your father, on the other hand, favoured a mahogany wand, 11 inches, pliable, a little more power, and excellent for transfiguration. Well, I say your father favoured it. It was really the wand that chooses the wizard, of course. Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes. And that's where Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long white finger. I'm sorry to say I sold the wand that did that, he said softly. 13 1/2 inches, yes. Powerful wand, very powerful, and in the wrong hands. Well, if I had known that the wand was going out into the world to do. He shook his head, and then, to Harry's relief, spotted Hagrid. Rufus Hagrid! How nice to see you again. Oak, 16 inches, the Bindi, wasn't it? It was, sir, yes, said Hagrid. Good wand, that one. But I suppose they snapped it in half when you got expelled, said Mr. Ollivander, suddenly stern. Yes, they did, yes, said Hagrid, shuffling his feet. I've still got pieces, though, he added brightly. But you don't use them, said Mr. Ollivander sharply. Oh, no, sir, said Hagrid quickly. Hagrid noticed he gripped his pink umbrella very tightly as he spoke. Said Mr. Ollivander, giving Hagrid a piercing look. Well now, Mr. Potter, let me see. He pulled a long tape measure with silver markings out of his pocket. Which is your wand arm? Well, I'm right-handed, said Harry. Hold out your arm. That's it. He measured Harry from shoulder to finger, then waist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, and around his head. As he measured, he said, Every Ollivander wand has a core of a powerful magical substance, Mr. Potter. We use unicorn hair, phoenix veiled tail feathers, and the heartstrings of dragons. No two Ollivander wands are the same, just as no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same, and, of course, you will never get such good results with another wizard's wand. Harry suddenly realized that the tape measure, which was measuring between his nostrils, was doing this on its own. Mr. Ollivander was flitting around the shelves, taking down boxes. "That will do," he said, and the tape measure crumpled into a heap on the floor. "Right, then, Mr. Potter, try this one. Beechwood and dragon heartstring, 9 inches, nice and flexible. Just take it and give it a wave." Harry took the wand and, feeling foolish, waved it around a bit, but Mr. Oliver snatched it out of his hand almost at once. "Maple and phoenix feather, 7 inches, quite whippy. Try." Harry tried, but as he had hardly raised the wand when it too was snatched back by Mr. Ollivander. "No. Here's ebony and unicorn hair, 8½ inches, springy. Go on, get it out." Harry tried and tried. He had no idea what Mr. Ollivander was waiting for. A pile of tired wands was mounting higher and higher on the spindly chair, but the more wands Mr. Ollivander pulled from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. "Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, we'll find the perfect match here somewhere. I wonder. Now, yes, why not? Unusual combination. Holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple." Harry took the wand, felt a sudden warmth of his fingers. He raised the wand above his head, brought it swishing down through the dusty air, and a stream of red and gold sparks shot from the end like a firework, throwing dancing spots of light onto the wall. Hagrid whooped and clapped, and Mr. Ollivander cried, "Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed! Oh, very good! Well! How curious! How curious indeed!" He put Harry's wand back into its box and wrapped it in brown paper, still muttering, "Curious." "Sorry," Harry said. "Curious, but what's curious?" Mr. Ollivander fixed Harry with a pale blue stare. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather. Just one feather. It was very curious indeed that the one should be destined for this wand when its brother gave you that scar." Harry swallowed. "Yes, 13½ inches. Yes, curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember. I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great." Harry shivered. He wasn't sure he liked Mr. Ollivander too much. He paid 7 gold galleons for his wand. Mr. Ollivander bowed to them after they had left his shop. All right, my sweet friends, I've gone over time because I can't help it. This is such a great book. So I'm going to read more to you tomorrow, all about what happens with Harry and what looks like to be his new wand. Okay, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I miss you tons. Love you tons. Bye, guys.